turn it over to Michelle. Good?
I'm letting OIS know so I can. And we are connected.
Okay. All right then. Well, good evening, everybody. We are having our virtual hearing tonight on the draft plans that were released, I guess, last week. So we're going to get right to it. We have a pretty long list of people. But first, we're going to have Michelle Davis give us a briefing on the census data and the effect on redistricting. I guess it's going to be a statewide kind of look. And then we'll start calling people to testify. We're going to call a panel first, and then we're going to call 5 names to stage them, and we'll take them through. Okay. All right, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Actually, what I'm going to do today is just go briefly over the 4 draft maps, just so that everyone can get a look at them really quickly. So I'm going to share my screen. I think, Jody, I think that I can do that, or maybe you might have to enable that for me.
Yeah, you should be able to, I think, and if not, let me see what I can do.
Yeah, it says host disabled screen sharing.
Okay, give me one. I think you should be able to do it now.
Okay, yep, I've got it. Hold on a second. Okay, can everyone see the first map?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is concept map 1 that I have up now. Hold on here, I'm having a little trouble with my controller here. So yeah, this is concept map 1. And I'll just move around a little bit. And this is one of the maps that keep a good portion of residents in their current district. Two of the maps do that. I believe this is one that does that. And the 7th district sort of represents the migration of people from Baltimore City moving further out west into Baltimore County. Now I'm gonna move on to the concept map 2. We'll take a second to open. And the same thing, this map does try to keep as many people, as many residents in their current district. And it also keeps Anne Arundel in just in 3 districts, 3 congressional districts, you can see here. And it also does similar thing in Congressional District 7. And as you can see in Congressional District 1, it goes over and it takes, goes over the bay and takes part of Anne Arundel. And I do believe that's something that has been mentioned in testimony in the past. I'm going to quickly go to the 3rd concept map here, hold on. Okay, in this map, Anne Arundel's also in 3 districts, I believe. And we have a shared district for Montgomery and Prince George's County. The 1st district is a little more compact, I believe, than in some of the other maps. And I'll take you to the last map. One second. So this is concept map 4. And this is the map that has Anne Arundel in 2 congressional districts. So that's sort of the defining feature there. And also this map has the 6 taking in all of Frederick County, which is also something I think that has been mentioned in testimony in the past. So this is just a review. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, I can try to answer them now or answer them later. But that's all I wanted to sort of do, is just refresh everyone's memory on the 4 maps.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Thank you. Just a quick question. I just want to confirm these were the 4 maps that were released last week. Is that right?
yes.
Yes.
And these were released as both the PDF and with the shape files. Is that accurate?
I don't think we had PDFs, but we released what we call the equivalency files, and it's also on the interactive web plan viewer.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I assume any other questions from the panel? All right, then what we're going to do is move forward. We have a panel that signed up. Consists of Nicole Drew, Aileen Wangus, Monique Cephas, and Kimberly Robinson, and we're going to let them go first, and then we'll start calling. We're going to stage people, call 5 names at a time, so you can be in the waiting room and we can move along. So, okay, if the panel's ready, we're ready to listen. Who wants to go first? Okay.
Hi, are we ready?
Anytime you'd like to start,
Okay.
go in whatever order you would like to.
So good evening. I will start. My name is Nicole Drew, and today I represent the 25 Maryland chapters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonpartisan organization with chapters across the United States and abroad. The Maryland chapters have a total membership of more than 4,600 members who are registered voters in every congressional district in this state. I am joined today by Aileen Wangus, Monique Cephas, and Kimberly Robinson from some of our Baltimore chapters. And you have also received written testimony from the Prince George's County chapter. We want to thank you for releasing the draft congressional maps and allowing time for residents to provide feedback. We urge you to continue to allow Maryland residents to participate in this process using remote methods, particularly during the special session in December. And many of our members, as well as the communities that they serve, are not able to make it to Annapolis to testify in person due to work or other obligations, despite their willingness and desire to participate in this process. The members of the Maryland chapters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority have been encouraged to participate in their individual capacities or to provide feedback from their through their respective chapters, some of whom you have heard from already, and you will hear from throughout the remainder of this process. As you draw the maps, we do continue to ask that the voting power and participation in communities of color, particularly in the Black communities, are not diluted or sacrificed when drawing map lines, recognizing that many of our members are part of many of the densely populated areas in the state. And finally, data and history has shown that women have been grossly underrepresented in all levels of government. And based on the 2020 census, women make up 51.6% of the population in Maryland. However, they make up approximately 40% of our state and local political representatives. We are proud of Maryland's growth of women in political leadership, and we do want to ensure that we do not lose that female representation in the General Assembly. Additionally, we want to ensure that we do not lose the minority representation, especially where they represent communities that have experienced growth in Maryland's minority voting age population per the 2020 census. I'll now turn it over to Aileen Wangus from the Baltimore Alumni chapter.
Thank you and good evening. As stated, my name is Arlene Wongus, and I am president of the oldest and most historic chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority in the state of Maryland, the Baltimore Alumni chapter. Baltimore Alumni chapter is privileged to be the first chapter chartered in Maryland in 1922 by one of our 22 founders, Vashti Turley Murphy, wife of the founder of the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper, Carl J. Murphy. Baltimore Alumni Chapter, frequently referred to as BAC, approaches its centennial milestone of providing services in the greater Baltimore area. And we must highlight the fact that we are the primary chapter in the state that provides services to the community in which our facility resides. For over 34 years, the Delta Community Center, which is nestled in the heart of the Park Heights community at 2501 Spring Hill Avenue, has been open to a variety of community, youth, professional, and faith-based operations. The Delta Community Center is covered by the 7th Maryland Congressional District and the 40th Maryland Legislative District. However, our chapter boasts having a membership of 526 college-educated professional women who reside in various areas of our state. Those areas include U.S. Congressional Districts 2, 3, 7, and 8, and Maryland Legislative Districts 8, 10, 11, 41, 43, 44, and 45. Our community service efforts and investments have been present from the very start. For purposes of this evening's discussion, I will highlight just a few services provided within the past 15 years. BAC has provided more than $600,000 in direct scholarships to support Baltimore area students and made annual scholarship donations to both Morgan State University and Coppin State University. In addition, in partnership with Coppin State University's chapter of Delta, we host an annual event called Backpacks to Briefcases to professionally prepare graduating seniors for the workforce. Youth programs have been promoted. We have youth programs which promote positive self-esteem, academic excellence, and career and professional growth for over 900 youth, male and female, ages 11 to 17. We've provided encouragement and support to small and/or established Black-owned businesses. We provide physical and mental health promotion and activities and offer activities such as our free weekly exercise classes, which are open to the community. We hold webinars and forums with subject matter experts to address the stigma and silence related to mental well-being. In addition, we've held webinars and forums supporting the area's international community, sharing transition resources. In 2011, our chapter dedicated Restoration Gardens. This facility contains 43 efficiency units and 2 one-bedroom apartments and provides housing for youth that have aged out of foster care programs and the age range of 18 to 24. Ever since 2013, Baltimore Alumni has physically and financially supported one of the area's largest national night out initiatives, which has successfully facilitated bringing the community, law enforcement, and other community resource organizations together. We also host one of the longest running senior programs, Eating Together, in partnership with the Baltimore City Health Department, meeting regularly in our center. These represent just a few of our community endeavors. Other partners include, but are not limited to, Comcast Cares, the Park Heights Community Association, and the Central Maryland Girl Scouts. Given our significant impact in the greater Baltimore community, and specifically to the Park Heights area, we are genuinely concerned about the resources that will be vulnerable to the redistricting process. Although Baltimore's population declined by 5.7% from 620,961 in 2010 to 585,000 5,708 in 2020, the needs of the communities we serve have increased. Even with decreased population, comparatively, household sizes are smaller, which equates to an increase in the number of households we service. In addition, the voting age population 18 and above has increased from 78.5% to 80.5%. Baltimore has the second highest percentage of children living in poverty in the state. The needs are increasing and more intense for people of color. Baltimore is getting browner, and we implore the commission to ensure that the mapping is reflective of this representation. We do thank you this evening for your time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before the next person goes, if you can indulge us, we have just 3 minutes each. Can we have an extended time to allow the other two?
You know, we have a lot of people that testify. We're very familiar with your organization. If you could concentrate on what it is about those particular maps, I think that would expedite the process.
Okay, I think the next speaker was Monique Cephas.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your efforts to ensure the process for drawing election maps is transparent and incorporates community voices. I am Monique Cephas, a resident of Baltimore County. My testimony today is on behalf of the Baltimore County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Incorporated, and our 288 active members. The Baltimore County Alumni Chapter serves the Baltimore County area, which covers Legislative District 3 and Congressional Districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Our chapter's programming addresses the needs of youth, seniors, and families. Baltimore County Alumni Chapter, known as BCAC, offers pivotal programs to residents in Baltimore County. As an example, for more than 35 years, BCAC has offered programs focused on educational development, such as Dr. Jean L. Noble, Delta Gems, Growing and Empowering Myself Successfully, Dr. Betty Shabazz Delta Academy, Embody, Empowering Males to Build Opportunities for Developing Independence, Delta Student Enrichment Program, Botillion Cotillion, and offering scholarships. These programs are designed to mentor, coach, enhance, and enrich the education of our young children and teens within the Baltimore County area. They are the future of Baltimore County. BCAC has maintained strong partnerships with organizations such as Police Athletic League, Baltimore County Police Department, Baltimore County Judiciary Courts, Randallstown Community Center, Morningstar Baptist Church, Baltimore County Department of Aging, Benjamin Banneker Museum, Community College of Baltimore County, Hampton Mansion Museum, and a host of other charity organizations. Based on the communities that we serve, the voting population is 566,408, with an overall population of 854,535 in Baltimore County. Caucasians account for 51.8%, and African Americans account for 29.5%. In 2020, the reported median household income for Baltimore County was $78,866, which is a slight decrease from 2019, reported as $77,358. As the third most populated county in Maryland, we desire to see the maps reflect more districts with a majority African American population to ensure greater diversity, inclusiveness, equity, fairness, and community engagement. Data has shown that the percentage of African Americans in Baltimore County has increased since 2000, 20.2% in 2000, 26.1% in 2010, and 29.5% in 2020. The rate of African Americans is predicted to grow even more over the next 10 years. As such, packing the majority of African American people in one district is simply unfair. Every district should have communities that reflect our county. Lastly, BCAC strongly urges the community committee to proactively share maps with the community and allow community members enough time to review, evaluate, and prepare logical responses. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration. It is now my pleasure to introduce Kimberly Robinson from the Baltimore Metropolitan Alumni Chapter.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Legislative Redistricting Advisory Commission. My name is Kimberly Robinson. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta's National Social Action Commission, and I'm here today on behalf of my chapter president, Cynthia Horton, representing the Baltimore Metropolitan Alumni Chapter. In the interest of time, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to recount for you all of the incredible programs that the Baltimore Metropolitan Alumni Chapter offers to the Baltimore area. We have been serving the Baltimore area since 1987, and I will be submitting written testimony that will include that recitation. But I will instead focus on our primary concerns and the information we think is most important that you all consider as you conduct your work. The Baltimore Metropolitan Alumni Chapter serves Baltimore City primarily, covering legislative districts 40, 41, 43, 44A, 45, and 46, and congressional districts 2, 3, and 7. Our chapter programs address the needs that are very diverse within the Baltimore community. They range from those who are experiencing challenges with entrenched systemic poverty, all the way to very affluent communities, because Baltimore is the greatest microcosm of community that you're going to find within the state of Maryland. The voting age population in the communities we serve is currently standing at approximately 456,000. And the Black and African American population, which is our primary community of interest, represents 284,900 or so of that total. Baltimore City does, as I said, have unique issues and interests that we believe are important to be addressed, and it's important that we are well represented within newly drawn districts. We understand that the city's population reflects some decline, but as you consider state legislative districts, we ask that you be mindful of the effects that districts that are multi-jurisdictional may have on a city like Baltimore. Historically, Baltimore has found itself part of both hybrid Baltimore City and Baltimore County legislative districts. And as you're taking into consideration whether that's going to remain necessary as new lines are drawn, what we think is important is that you look at what is common between those communities that are within the city's borders and those are within the county. West Baltimore, for instance, is one of those places where you've got those multi-jurisdictional districts happening now. It has very specific challenges and needs that are important when recognizing what is different between those jurisdictions in areas such as education, job opportunity, housing, policing, and more. So if you take a look around the communities that border Baltimore City, and you take into consideration which communities are most common with the ones that they're sitting next to, I think it will help to make it so that our representatives are best able to serve all of the communities they're being called on to serve. To wrap up, I would just highlight that we know that many of Baltimore City's issues that are going to influence how these districts play out, the needs that we're going to ask legislators to address for us, whether we're talking about our congressional maps or our legislative maps, trace back to our history of redlining in the Baltimore area, and that they have a very entrenched history. And there's a lot of systemic things that we call on our legislators to address. Making sure our legislators are able to focus on the needs of the communities in front of them for us are very important. And for all of these reasons, we appreciate this process. On behalf of all of my sister chapters who've spoken before me, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today and for allowing us to present as a panel so that you heard from all the chapters together. We look forward to providing you more specific feedback on the maps.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your efforts. Okay, we're going to move on now to the next 5 people. I have at the top of my list, Stephen Shapiro, Kathy Dixon, Nick, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Curasso, Deepa Patel, and Marnette Finn. So if you queue them up and bring them in that order, that would be great. Mr. Shapiro, you're there. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. I'm Steve Shapiro. I live in Montgomery County, and even though I've lived in Montgomery County for over 50 years, my family's originally from Baltimore and Annapolis, so I'm quite familiar with many regions of the state. Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, Mr. President, and other members of the Commission, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you again tonight to further address issues since last week. I hadn't intended to speak again, but the LRAC issued its 4 proposed maps last week. Looking closely at the maps, they appear to reflect a decision to adopt a 7-1 configuration, meaning that there will be 7 safe Democratic seats in the enacted map. While I have advocated for a 6-2 configuration, I appreciate that this decision appears to be made, and now my focus is on coming up with a 7-1 map that provides the best representation for the most Marylanders. It also appears that a decision was made to provide suitable districts for incumbents, which is not unreasonable. However, all 4 of the LRAC's proposed maps are more complex than is needed to do this. They're not necessarily compact or contiguous, and not by accident. And there seems to be a couple minutes. If there are further criteria, further reason for this, it would be helpful for the public to know so that we could provide further comment and support for doing this. Of particular concern is that these maps all move one or both of the majority Black districts to largely white Republican precincts, meaning to distant areas with low minority populations. And it's not clear why this is done, meaning there's no need to do this in order to create 7 safe Democratic seats. I've provided the Commission with maps M and N that show that more compact and contiguous districts can indeed be drawn. Map M ties Western Maryland to Montgomery County and Eastern Frederick and Carroll to Baltimore and Howard County. It seems more sensible to tie Carroll to Baltimore and Howard than to Montgomery. Alternatively, map N leaves Western Maryland intact and ties the middle and lower shore to Annapolis and then Columbia in order to create a district with a 10-point Democratic margin. I'd like to particularly address the 4th district in that maps M and N show that a reasonable district can be created for Congressman Hoyer with 20 and 26-point margins without extending the 4th district by a narrow route to a more distant region. I know Mr. Hoyer has wanted this done in the past to reduce the areas from Prince George's and Southern Maryland in the 4th district so that he can maximize those areas in the 5th district. But at a time when Mr. Hoyer and other national leaders are calling for passage of pending voting rights legislation to end gerrymandering, it's not necessary or proper to continue to do this. Mr. Hoyer deserves a suitable district, and as I've shown, he can have this along with a 4th district that is a reasonably shaped district. As for the LRAC's proposed maps, map 4 is the best for Montgomery County. Its 3rd district is the most compact, and I note that the 4th district extends only to Howard County and to precincts with significant minority populations. In that regard, map 3 would be the worst, as it would extend the 4th district to Damascus for no apparent reason. Maps 1 and 2 I think of as being in the middle. The 4th district goes to border areas in Montgomery County with significant minority populations. The only recommendation I'd have there is to put both parts of Calverton in the 4th district rather than splitting Calverton between the 4th and 5th district as it does now. And also I note it seems odd to have parts of the 3rd district go to Harford County. I did not see a clear reason for that. Anyway, again, in summary, I appreciate the opportunity to provide this further input. I note again that we can do better as far as providing more compact and contiguous districts with a 7-1 configuration. Leaving people where they are now is no justification for not doing that, because it was not good when we did this 10 years ago. It's less good to continue to do that when we have the opportunity to do otherwise. And I strongly encourage the commission to do so. I thank you all very much and appreciate your consideration of my input.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shapiro. Next person up, I guess, is Randy Guy. I would please, with everybody, encourage you to just tell us what you think about the maps as in a concise manner as you can. We have a number of people to get through. Thank you. Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Do you mind if we also remind people to keep themselves on mute unless they're specifically testifying?
Certainly, we can do that. Yes. So again, keep yourselves muted. I'll do it every time we bring group in, until you're ready to testify. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Guy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Randy Guy, County Commissioner President of St. Mary's County. My main focus here is I want to keep our county as whole as possible. We're a unique peninsula surrounded by water, unique mission. I don't want to break it up by having especially our big economic district moved up into another county. And the main thing is the state legislative districts, our delegates, our senators, to keep them whole as possible within St. Mary's County. And that's about all the presentation I have. We have a unique mission surrounded by water, and everything is different here compared to even our neighboring counties. So I ask that you please keep us in mind as far as keeping us whole and in our districts presently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I miscounted. I might actually have 6 people lined up, but the next one I have is Kathy Dixon, I think. Is she on? Is she in?
Mute, yes.
We're here.
We're here.
It's not bringing us up.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear us?
Yes.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you for releasing maps and allowing for public input. This transparency is greatly appreciated. My main piece of feedback involves the 1st Congressional District. I believe Andy Harris is a danger to our democracy, and you therefore need to do everything you can to reduce his chance of being reelected. Andy Harris has a shameful, embarrassing record that disqualifies him from serving in Congress. On January 6th, after the Capitol was attacked, he voted against the certification of several states that President Biden won fair and square. We cannot give him the opportunity to overturn the 2024 election results. He helped stoke the violence that led to the insurrection on January 6th and has tried to minimize and cover up what happened that day. He even voted against giving the Congressional Gold Medal to the Capitol Police officers that saved his life. He has lost the right to serve in Congress. Unfortunately, none of the 4 proposed maps go far enough in reducing the risk of him being reelected again. Of the proposed draft maps, map 3 is most acceptable, but even it is not substantial. In fact, Andy Harris told Fox News that all 4 maps would result in him being reelected. That is an unacceptable outcome. You must do more to prevent an insurrectionist from serving in Congress. Thank you, Claire and Kathy Dixon.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next we have, and I'm going to apologize for the last name, Nick Kiraku. Nick?
Mr. Chair, it looks like he is here, but he's connecting to audio. So I'm not sure if you want to move to someone else, and if he can connect to audio, we can come back to him.
Okay, let's do that. Deepa Patel, and I can see she's here.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Legislative Redistricting Advisory Committee. I would like to thank you for creating a transparent process. This is the first time that Maryland is using an independent commission, and hopefully it will result in fairer, more compact congressional and legislative maps that would prevent or at least impose limits on partisan gerrymandering. I was born and raised in Elkton, Maryland, proud daughter of Cecil County. My father is a refugee, my mother is an immigrant, and they spun the globe, and thankfully they landed in Elkton, where they both worked at the local hospital. I was born and raised in that hospital, but I have never felt a part of the community when it comes to our representatives. We have been an uncompetitive district, District 1 from the beginning. It is packed full of Republicans and doesn't give minorities a vote. I appeal to you all today to please consider not leaving Black, Brown voters behind in District 1. Republicans have come together to make District 1 their way of being representative in Maryland, but instead it results in too little population and overpacking of other districts. To be more fair and more balanced and more competitive, I believe that of your maps, number 3 comes the closest to making the districts more proportionate. I do also echo the calls of some of the other people who have spoken to have some members of the community on your commission to maybe draw additional maps if there's time permitted for that. But otherwise, map number 3 is the one that you have a resounding vote for from Elkton. So I thank you today for your time, and I hope to see this process through to the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe, we're still trying to get a gentleman to connect. Marnette Finn, do we have that person in the waiting room? Seem to be some audio issues. Gentleman to connect. Marnette Finn, do we have that person in the waiting room? I'm sorry, who am I hearing?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Is there any way that people that don't have older computers can dial in instead?
I don't think so. We have to check, but I doubt it.
Oh, okay. Well, hi. Am I up? I'm Marnette Finn.
Yes, you're up.
Okay. I live in Severna Park. I want to thank you for holding this public hearing and for releasing draft maps so early in the process. As a resident of Anne Arundel County, I think the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel are linked culturally and economically, so they should be together in the same congressional district. As you know, the Eastern Shore has too little population to be its own congressional district. Therefore, it must include portions of the Western Shore so that all Maryland's districts are balanced by population. There are 2 options in the Eastern Shore to connect with the Western Shore, into Hartford or Carroll counties, or into Anne Arundel County, using the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. I think the latter is the far better option because of Anne Arundel County has so many more cultural and economic ties to the Eastern Shore than Carroll County does. In fact, the latest data available from the Maryland Department of Labor shows that 9,000 residents from the 5 upper shore counties commute daily to Anne Arundel County. There are also thousands more who commute in the other direction. The bridge itself and the potential for an additional span demands that single representatives sent to Congress to bring funding to our communities to alleviate traffic and promote economic growth on both sides of the bridge. When it comes to the environmental, Anne Arundel County has more shoreline on the bay and its tributaries than any other county on the Western Shore. It should be in the same district as the Eastern Shore because both regions have the same economic and environmental interests in protecting the bay. Given the drafts maps that this commission has released, I think map number 3 does the best job of connecting these communities of interest together. And I urge you to adopt the final map similar to this one. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next person up would be, is still trying to connect, Beth Connor, I think. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
First of all, I want to thank the commission for giving me this opportunity to speak today and especially allowing for a transparent redistricting process. My name is Beth Connor, and although I live in the 7th district, my husband and I own a second home in District 1. I believe in our Constitution and the right to a free and fair election. And like the caller before, I believe that this is partisan gerrymandering that has been happening, and it does not support the ideals of our Constitution. This current district is a blatant example of gerrymandering at its worst. And I believe the map 3, although not perfect, is probably the better option of the other options that are out there, as it will allow for more competition. That's representative of the people. Our democratic system requires Congress to uphold the Constitution. That is their duty. Andy Harris, however, is a threat to our democracy and has turned his back on our Constitution by not certifying several states after President Biden's win. Despite no evidence to back the voter fraud claim and all courts rejecting the claims of a fraudulent election, Andy Harris chose to back the losing candidate and his nefarious actions and his promotion of insurrection. A competitive and balanced first district will help to hold Andy Harris accountable to the people of District 1, to the people of Maryland, to the United States of America, but mostly to the democracy that was guaranteed by our forefathers when they created our Constitution. Thank you again, and I really urge you to adopt map 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now next person, Westbrook Murphy.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you for a second time. And to comment on the maps that you've released. Now, my testimony last time, about 6 weeks ago, which is supported best by concept map 3, which is the idea is to get the extra voters that are needed, extra population that's needed for the Eastern Shore by going across the Bay Bridge. And I've updated my previous testimony in writing and submitted it to you. Let me just go over the changes, if I may, the additions. First, I'm a little smarter in geography now than I was 6 weeks ago. Anne Arundel County shares a border with 3 of the counties on the Eastern Shore, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Talbot. And if you drive over the Chesapeake Bay, once you get about half a mile past the main span going east, you'll see welcome to Queen Anne's County. And coming back the other way, you'll see welcome to Anne Arundel County. And those 2 roads, US 50 and US 301, of course, connect as a main artery to 7 of the 9 counties on the Eastern Shore. Second, I noted last time there were 9,000 daily commuters across the Bay Bridge for employment, and gave you a list of some of the big employers in Anne Arundel County. I've expanded that list and added the numbers as estimated by the Anne Arundel County government, and my list includes every employer in Anne Arundel County with 3,000 or more employees. And that gives you a total of 122,000 employees in those big employers. Next, I noted that the business relationships included a proposal from a bank on the Eastern Shore to acquire the Severance Savings Bank in Annapolis. That proposal was consummated on the 1st of November, and with a name change, there's a bank headquartered in Eastern now named United Shore Bank N.A. that has 7 branches in Anne Arundel County. Finally, and this is not my recent testimony, but I'm sure you've seen it, is the Baltimore Sun op-ed by the former congressman from the 1st District, Wayne Gilchrist, who noted during his more than a decade and a half of representing that district, it included parts of Anne Arundel County. So I urge you to return Anne and Arundel County to its historic roots and go with concept 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Nick Kirakou. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but if you're there, you're up.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Nick Kiriakou. I believe in true democracy and adherence to the United States Constitution. Andy Harris' re-election as congressman with Maryland's 1st District is a clear and present danger to democracy and the American way of life. There is no room in the U.S. Congress for his radical thinking. Andy Harris voted against the certification of several states that Biden won fair and square. We cannot give him the opportunity to overturn the 2024 election. He helped stoke the violence that led to the insurrection on January the 6th and has tried to minimize and cover up what happened that day. He has lost the right to serve in Congress. Unfortunately, none of the 4 proposed maps go far enough in reducing the risk of him from being reelected again. Of the proposed draft maps, map 3 is the most acceptable, but even it is not substantial. In fact, Andy Harris told Fox News that all 4 maps would result in him being reelected. That is an unacceptable outcome. You must do more to prevent from him being, you must do more to prevent Andy Harris from being elected or even serving in Congress. While not perfect, LRAC map 3 comes close to doing this. So I urge you to adopt a better map, a decrease of Andy Harris' re-election to Congress. Andy Harris must not be given the ability to get re-elected and should be put out to pasture to roost with the Eastern Shore chickens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to Kristen Cook.
Mute, okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Cook, and I live in Montgomery County, but I was born and raised in wonderful Columbia and Howard County. I'd like to give credit to the LRAC for creating this, like everyone has acknowledged, this transparent process for updating Maryland's congressional district lines. Next, I'd like to give my support for the proposed map 3, which is the most acceptable of all 4 proposals. Unfortunately, none of the 4 proposed maps go far enough in reducing the risk of Maryland's resident insurrectionist from being reelected again. We need this 1st district to be competitive, to allow voters to render a verdict on Harris. Andy Harris has been able to be reelected time and again because the current 1st district nearly guarantees that he will for as long as he wants to be in Congress. And Andy Harris has proved he's a danger to our democracy when he voted against the certification of several states that President Biden won. Let's not give him another opportunity to try and overturn the 2024 election results. Thank you for your time and consideration in this incredibly important matter.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Krista Lamoureux.
Hi. Thank you for the time. I deeply appreciate the work you are doing on behalf of Maryland and its citizens. Thank you for making it a transparent process. I wholeheartedly support taking partisan politics out of redistricting and focusing on whole communities and common sense lines. As a veteran and a passionate full-time resident of the Eastern Shore and a former resident of Anne Arundel County, I believe you might have overlooked a few items I hope you may reconsider. One of the biggest is the continuity of representation as it applies to the Chesapeake Bay. As someone who cares deeply about the current and long-term health of the Eastern Shore and the Bay, I believe having a single representative representing the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel County, which, as other people have said, and I don't need to reiterate, has the most shoreline there on the Western Shore, and it's pretty critically linked for all the reasons I think Mr. Westbrook brought up as well: economic, environment, the bridge, and then of course there's the population issue. So I believe for all of these reasons, this is a big issue for those of us in District 1, and I think that the map number 3 comes the closest, but it would be wonderful if it could be more expanded for several of the reasons that have already been shared. So I thank you for your time. I have submitted my written testimony, so I will just leave it for there.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Alexis Sipe? Do we have Alexis Sipe? I see her iPad or an Alexa's iPad popping up, and I don't know if she's there. There. Alexa, if you're there, go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Alexis Sipe. I'm a resident of Easton, Maryland, Talbot County. Thank you again for making this process a bit more public. Thank you for taking a gerrymandered mess and trying to make more sense out of it. As a result of your creativity and creating 4 maps, in my opinion, map number 3 is the map of choice. Particularly as a resident of the Eastern Shore, the affiliation with Annapolis and Anne Arundel County is critical. The commuting population going back and forth between the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel has grown. Both of the counties have, or both of the districts have critical needs in terms of waterfront flooding, sea water rising, climate changes, and possibly a new bridge. We need one representative to focus on these issues, paying exclusive attention to these 2 similar places with similar challenges. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Melanie Goldstein.
Thank you. My name is Melanie Goldstein. I'm a newbie, so anyway, as I begin, I really want to thank you for this opportunity and for creating a transparent process. I am very worried / nervous / scared for my country, and yet proud of my Maryland representation. However, this does not apply to Andy Harris. He seems to have taken sides with the insurrectionists and those perpetuating disinformation throughout Congress and the country at large. Because he is a danger to our democracy, his chances of re-election need to be reduced. I believe he has lost the right to serve in Congress, as he appears to be serving his own needs and not his constituents or our country. I don't believe any of the 4 maps go far enough to diminish his risks of being re-elected again. Map 3 appears to be most acceptable, but it is still not substantial. I truly believe you must do more, really as much as you can, to prevent an insurrectionist from serving in Congress. I am counting on my elected representatives to do all they can to preserve our democracy and move forward to create more equitable opportunities for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Rebecca Flora.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. The redistricting of the state of Maryland is very important, as you well know, and your time and dedication to it is greatly appreciated. I'd like to thank you all for considering thoughtfully through the utilization of data and public comment, among other factors. This process is a really great example for our country. As a property and business owner residing in Chestertown, Maryland, I would like to strongly recommend that the Eastern Shore be included in a redistricting map that directly associates the Eastern Shore with Anne Arundel County. The Eastern Shore of Maryland is a unique place, as I think we all know, but as a reminder to all Maryland voters, the Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the United States and the third largest in the world. It is about 200 miles long and holds more than 18 trillion gallons of water, some from the Atlantic Ocean and some from 150 streams, creeks, and rivers that drain into the watershed. While our Eastern Shore voter population may be small compared to other regions of Maryland, we hold a massive responsibility in the stewardship of this place that gives Maryland its most globally recognized identity and to the socioeconomic well-being of all people who live here. The people of Eastern Shore and this special place deserve fair representation that understands and values our many contributions to Maryland and the entire estuary. Andy Harris does not represent the Eastern Shore. He does not even understand its greater value, and he places us and our nation at risk with his extreme actions. Yet he will be guaranteed a seat in Congress, and the Eastern Shore will be guaranteed no voice in our future without a fair realigning of districts. But we all know this redistricting is not about Andrew Harris and his tenure. It's only an example of what can happen when a fair districting does not exist, and someone is allowed to control the election in their favor time and time again. Done. Just two more sentences. Will be balanced and competitive, so Harris is accountable. While not perfect, map number 3 comes close to doing this. So I urge you to adopt a final map like this one. Linking the Eastern Shore to Anne Arundel would provide the direct connection that goes beyond our shared Bay Bridge physical connection. It ensures that the people who live within the largest shorelines of the Bay have an equitable voice in its economic and environmental future. Thank you, and I'm sorry I went over time. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Gregory Pearson.
Hi, can you hear me? The question we all asked.
Yes, we can.
I'm a resident of the 1st Congressional District of Baltimore County and have been disappointed in the lack of competitiveness the district has provided in recent years. I would like to live in a congressional district where there is a fair chance to have a competitive race. Andy Harris has represented this district for years, and under the current boundaries, likely would easily win again. In recent years, he has stunned many of the residents he represents by voting against certifying results in the 2020 presidential election and also against honoring police officers who fought off an assault of the Capitol on January 6, 2021. I urge approval of map number 3 to provide more balance and fairness for this part of the state. I wanted to thank the committee for their time and their efforts on this important issue, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me tonight.
Thank you very much. I have a person on the list, but it looks like written testimony only. That's Kathleen Hutton, and I don't see her in the waiting room, so we're going to move to Joseph Finn. Mr. Finn? Go right ahead, sir. Mr. Finn, are you there?
All right, here we go.
All right, well, I guess we'll come back. Oh, there's you. But
I pushed the right buttons.
okay, well, go ahead. We'll see where Joseph Finn is later. You go right ahead. Ms. Frost, go ahead.
Good evening. And thank you all for, I know, staying late, going longer than the meeting had planned, and for as long as it took me to figure out which buttons to push.
There's you. Okay, well, go ahead.
I wanted to.
Joseph Finn is later. You go right ahead.
Okay, and I also wanted to thank you for trying this, thank you all for staying, going along, meeting and planning, and for it took me to figure which buttons to push. Okay. Okay, Andy Harris is a danger to our democracy. And you need to do everything that you can to make sure or to reduce the chance of him being reelected. He has voted against the certification of several states. He helped stoke the fires of violence that led to the insurrection. And this is a natural step for me. I had tried making appointments with my representative when he was not representing me and my tribe. And I never heard anything from him, never heard anything from his office or anything like that. So I feel like I have done the physical work of trying to talk to my representative. And he is unavailable, unreachable, and map 3 is the best way to do it. It only makes sense to have a beginning and an end for the Bay Bridge. And I'm sorry, I didn't turn my radio down. But
well, I think we got your point, and that was map 3 is what you like. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, just as a reminder to anybody else who comes on, if you've got something else running in the background, please turn it off or mute it because it does interfere. The next person I have is, Felicia Martin, I guess. Felicia Martin.
Hello. Thank you so much for listening to Marylanders as you consider redistricting. My husband and I live in District 1 in Harford County, and we want competitive, fair, and balanced districts. Elected officials should be committed to representing all constituents, and a balanced first district would hold Harris or any new representative accountable to its residents. Andy Harris knows that he can lean extremely far to the right since the current map stacks Republicans together in District 1. Districts should be drawn so that representatives can contemplate a spectrum of views and be willing to work with both parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go right to the point. Is Joseph Finn there? Mr. Finn? Okay, we'll come back. Paul Berman, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Paul Berman. I'm a Maryland resident and an experienced canvasser for political candidates on the East Coast. The express preference of our own Governor Hogan confirms that the economic, cultural, and social linkages between the Eastern Shore communities and Anne Arundel County. Of all the alternatives to relieve traffic congestion and thereby strengthen the historic ties between the Eastern Shore and other parts of Maryland, Governor Hogan has said that the only one he will accept is adding a third span to the bridge that for nearly 70 years has connected the Eastern Shore with Anne Arundel County. Governor Hogan's insistence on expanding the connection between the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel County offers clear confirmation that this commission's draft concept map 3, linking the Eastern Shore with Annapolis and a large portion of Anne Arundel County, would provide the best configuration for Maryland's first congressional district. Equally instructive is Governor Hogan's rejection of all other cross-bay alternatives that would connect the Eastern Shore with any other county, including counties to the north of Anne Arundel County, now included in the first congressional district. The map that I've provided with my testimony from the September 2020 Bay Crossing Alternative Study demonstrates graphically how Governor Hogan wants to expand the connection with Anne Arundel County as the way to strengthen ties with the Eastern Shore in preference to any other county on the western shores of the Chesapeake Bay. While hardly comparable in weight to a preference expressed by a governor, my own experience as a canvasser on the Eastern Shore provides additional evidence to support the linkages between the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel County. On the ground in Queen Anne's, Talbot, and Caroline County, I often encountered people who told stories of their need and desire to reach jobs, shopping, and friends in Annapolis and other Anne Arundel locations. I urge this commission to adopt draft concept map 3 and strongly to recommend its enactment by the General Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annalisa Jenkins.
Hi. I'm Annalisa Jenkins, a high school senior from Baltimore. Thank you so much for having this hearing. I really appreciate the transparency of the process and the opportunity to speak. I turn 18 this April, so this coming election cycle is the first one that I'll be able to vote in. It's imperative that we have a fair, competitive map that prioritizes voters' choices and protects the future. For 10 years, the first district has allowed a right-wing ideologue to win time and time again with no competition. The current map packs as many far-right voters as possible into one district, basically ensuring that extremists like Andy Harris will continue winning and espousing lies with no viable opposition, reasonable debate, or exchange of mainstream ideas. Andy Harris is a danger to democracy, and it's crucial to our future that people like him do not continue to serve in Congress. Harris voted against the certification of several of the states that President Biden won. We can't give him the opportunity to overturn the 2024 election results. Andy Harris stoked the insurrection on Capitol Hill on January 6th and has since voted against giving medals to the police officers that saved his life and has tried to cover up what happened that day. He consistently votes and speaks aggressively in opposition to environmental legislation. Ironic, considering his district will be one of the first to be severely affected by climate change, and spews vitriolic hate and overt racism. I urge you to accept a map like number 3 that, while not perfect, would be more competitive and would hold Harris accountable. We have to draw our political boundaries to ensure that Marylanders are fairly represented and to keep extremists from rising to higher office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm going to ask if Mr. Finn's available. His name is up there, but I don't see any indicator that he's actually alive with us. So we're going to go on. Michael Hudson, please.
Good evening. I would first like to thank the Legislative Redistricting Advisory Committee for providing an open and transparent way for the public to comment on the critical issue of Maryland's redistricting process. The LRAC, in choosing how to redraw Maryland's districts, has the power to help protect democracy in this country by ensuring the first district's Andy Harris cannot simply cruise to re-election. The first district was created by packing as many Republican voters as possible into a space, and this lack of competitiveness has given Harris the leeway to become more dangerous and more anti-democratic, thinking that he may never lose his seat. Making a fairer and more competitive district will increase the chance that better representation can be brought to this district. This is not just animus against one person, but it's worth noting that Harris has espoused COVID conspiracies, voted against the certification of several states' electors, stoked violence in the run-up to January 6th, and citizens within the first district deserve better from their representation, and this country should expect more from its public servants. Map 3 is the best solution offered to creating a district that is both logical by allying the Eastern Shore and Anne Arundel County, and also providing a balanced district that will allow quality representation to prevail. I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak this evening and wish everyone the best.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Jamie Williams.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I have also submitted written testimony, but I will read an abbreviated version for you all tonight. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to submit comment on this issue, which is of great importance to me personally as a resident of Bel Air and a constituent of Maryland's big, perhaps overly big, beautiful first congressional district. Though I'm originally from Maine, I've lived and laid roots in Maryland for nearly 10 years. I now live with my husband, who's a Bel Air native, and our 2 young daughters here in Bel Air. And in addition, I've had the unique opportunity to explore all of Maryland's distinct counties and regions through my prior work on state and federally funded efforts to expand access to pediatric behavioral health care for Maryland children. And in this position, I was able to observe the distinct regional identities and interests that make Maryland such a vibrant place to live and work. Meanwhile, here in my home community of Bel Air, I've watched as this formerly farm-based region has continued to develop and grow into a hub of commerce, family entertainment, and diversity. And my confusion about our connection to the economic and political interests of Maryland's Eastern Shore has also continued to grow. While Bel Air remains and will always remain connected to its agricultural roots and family-focused identity, we can no longer ignore the fact that our suburban and increasingly diverse progressive community, as well as our population size, our economic and cultural connections to Baltimore City and its surrounding counties, distinguish us from the Eastern Shore to such a dramatic extent that it no longer makes sense for us to remain connected to the shore's political representation. And it strikes me that no one really knows just who Andy Harris represents anymore. And so indeed, it is up to you and to all of us to make sure that first district voters feel engaged again in the upcoming election. Thank you so much. I believe this would be best achieved by implementing map number 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, next person, Charles Lerner.
My name is Charles Lerner. Thank you very much for listening to me tonight. I thank you for the opportunity for myself and the community, which is the Eastern Shore, as I live in Kent County. I'm a registered independent, but I have several points I want to make regarding District 1. My first point is that a district should be competitive, not safe. An informed electorate wants candidates to compete for our vote. Maybe that's why I'm an independent, and so many people today are registered as independents. I have voted in the past for both Democratic and Republican candidates looking for the best candidate. Once elected, we want our representatives to pay attention to us, representing us and providing good constituent services. But that's not what we get. We have a gerrymandered congressional district, which covers the Eastern Shore and is designed to favor a Republican candidate, and it does. In the last 4 elections, the division for the presidential elections, the vote for the Republican candidate was 20%, or in some instances, almost 30% in favor of the Republican candidate. And it's a similar split for the congressional seat as well. The current representative who lives near Baltimore does not really represent our community in the Eastern Shore. We rarely see him at all. As Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said in a redistricting case, quoting the Federalist Papers, she noticed that founders' desire to make sure that members of Congress would have an habitual recollection of their dependence on people, and a competitive district will make that happen. So I support, for that reason, option 3. My second point, which has been raised by a number of people, and I think as you are doing the court mandated with population and racial characteristics, I think it's important to recognize that the district should be someone of commonality of interest. And as other speakers have said, there is more of a commonality of interest with the Eastern Shore and Arundel County than there is in option 4 with Carroll County and Hartford County, which is closer to and more focused on Baltimore. As speakers have said, the environmental, the Chesapeake Bay, the Bay Bridge, the economic and cultural sharing between Anne Arundel and the Eastern Shore make it more of a compatibility and a commonality for the district. For those reasons, I think that option 3 is the best choice for a good competitive district. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Ethan Lai.
Hello, thank you. My name is Ethan Ablagi, and I'm a youth organizer for Schools Not Jails and newly appointed treasurer of the Associated Student Congress. But I would also clarify that I'm not here speaking on behalf of either of those organizations, just as a Baltimore resident and a sophomore of the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, to offer my perspective on the community's proposals with regards to Baltimore. And I'll be focusing on that given the time limit. Of course, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing public input on the map because, of course, transparency is critical to the success of this process. I noted in my written testimony, which I submitted to the committee online, reflecting on the last redistricting process, which, of course, the committee might look to as a case study of how the assembly of the day tackled the issues of various redistricting facets. Baltimore was split into 3 safe Democratic districts in a manner that diluted our city's votes. And I would note that instead of splitting Baltimore cleanly 3 ways, which would admittedly not be a fair system and would probably deprive us of the majority African-American district in the 7th, those maps had thin strings of precincts allowing the 2nd and 3rd districts to take in a number of deeply Democratic and African-American neighborhoods. This led to some of the poorest blocks of the metro area combined with some of its richest in singular districts. And had the committee's goal in the previous redistricting cycle been to guarantee 7 safe districts, they could have easily done so without splitting Baltimore in this way. And it is not really politically expedient given that to dilute the largest city in our state and its votes of over 500,000 residents just for the ease of re-election of our incumbents. Much to my surprise, the committee decided to retain this unnecessary method for Baltimore City this cycle in its 4 drafts that are here for public scrutiny in tonight's hearing. The committee has the opportunity now to correct some of the errors and shortcomings of the map that was drawn by the last assembly in the prior process, and I think that it would be a profound mistake if it did not. I would also raise the issue of Eastern Shore, in which 2 of the 4 proposals put forward by this committee are grossly put together with Anne Arundel with the goal of diluting the 1st district in favor of one party. I would note that putting agricultural counties on the Delmarva Peninsula with some of the wealthiest service industry towns in Anne Arundel does not make a lot of sense, and crossing the Bay Bridge to achieve a congressional district, even if it is legal, it's not a very contiguous method. In my experience as a Baltimorean living in a city that has been denied its fair representation in one whole district, I think it would be a mistake for the committee to combine 2 regions of the state without proper understanding of the linking cultural and socioeconomic parallels. My city's neighborhoods have served as collateral damage for politically expedient goals in a way that does not work for our people and is incompatible with the principles of our state's constitution. I would submit my plea to this committee that our city be kept together and that Eastern Shore be allowed a singular district, and that the committee better consider existing municipal and county boundaries going forward, which none of the 4 proposals have, in my view, adequately done. My father was recently naturalized earlier this year, and I would greatly hope as a personal matter that his first ever election as an American citizen in the upcoming midterms be in a district that has the capacity to serve his interests at the ballot box rather than diminish them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Duncella Wilson. Seems to be connecting to audio. All right, well, While she's trying to connect, let's go to Mr. Shapiro.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for making this a public process. I'm the second Shapiro you've heard from tonight. No relation, very different opinion. The current district number 1 snakes through wealthy areas far from the Chesapeake Bay and combines them with the Eastern Shore, making it non-competitive and assuring that the interests of the communities of the Eastern Shore are not truly representative. I'm a physician, so when Harris defeated Gilchrist, I thought I might have something in common with him, and I tried to make a connection. But I became disillusioned when I found that this congressman doesn't consider the needs of his less affluent constituents on the Eastern Shore, yet his reelection goes almost non-contested. This became clear to me years ago when I attended many of his town hall meetings as he fought tooth and nail to stop the passage of the Affordable Care Act, ignoring the desperate need for health coverage of many people on the Eastern Shore. I thought he was using his credentials as a physician to try to convince people that they'd be better off without the ACA, making bizarre and incorrect arguments. As it turned out, the beneficial effects of the ACA were dramatic on the Eastern Shore, where the rates of uninsured were cut by more than 50%, greater than other regions in Maryland. Now he seems to be representing anti-democracy groups, which cannot possibly be in the interests of his constituents. Of the 4 possibilities offered, I think map 3 is the best. It makes the most sense because it combines regions that are really adjacent, connected by the Bay Bridge, creating a district where cultural, economic, and environmental issues related to the mid and lower Bay can be strongly represented and where elections can be competitive. Thank you very much.
Time. Thank you. I still see that Doncella is trying to connect. So we will move to, who have I got here? Okay. Susan Wyman. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. Let's go back. I missed Deborah Schillinger, who was next.
Hello. My name is Deborah Doreen Schillinger from the state of Maryland, and my email address is ddschillinger@gmail.com. I am a 9th generation citizen of the United States of America since my patriot ancestors fought against the tyranny during the American Revolutionary War in what became the state of Maryland. I'm willing to provide a 2-point testimony for the Legislative Redistricting Advisory Commission on Monday, November 15th, 2021. First of all, I would like to state that a known insurrectionist like Andy Harris must be prevented from serving in Congress any longer, as the known numerous actions that Andy Harris has taken against the well-being of the United States of America is proof. I'll quote Mr. Harris's website. The primary duty of our government is to protect the American people from all enemies, foreign and domestic. To my second point, I've always believed in making districts fairer and more equal within the United States of America. While it's obviously not perfect, the LRAC's number 3 map comes closest to providing a more balanced and therefore just districting. So I urge you to adopt a final map like LRAC's number 3 map. Thank you for allowing me to submit this testimony.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we can go to Susan Weinman.
Can you hear me?
Volume up a little would be helpful.
I have to turn on.
Okay, is that better?
Do you have notes? Or you
Wait, yeah, I do. I just have to.
There are 2 of us on.
Okay. First, I wanted to thank the Redistricting Advisory Commission for holding public hearings. This is a great improvement over the previous redistricting processes, which were closed to the public. So thank you again. I hate to sound like a broken record. I believe I'm going to reiterate some points that have already been made, but I do believe I've lived most of my life in Maryland, and I'm proud to be a resident of this great state, but I believe that Andy Harris has lost the right to serve in Congress. He violated his oath of office by voting against the certification of the 2024 presidential election. He helped stoke the violence of January 6th, and then he tried to minimize and cover up what happened that day. A competitive district is the best way to give voters the opportunity to deny him another term. While not perfect, the LRAC's proposed map number 3 comes closest to a more competitive and balanced district. In addition, I think it makes a lot of sense for residents along the Chesapeake Bay to share a congressional representative with residents of the Eastern Shore. Map number 3 accomplishes this by grouping Anne Arundel County with counties east of the Bay. Anne Arundel shares far more economic and cultural ties with the Eastern Shore counties than do Hartford or Carroll counties. And in addition, given the imminent threats posed by global warming and climate change, I believe that Anne Arundel is just inextricably linked to the counties on the Eastern Shore and has the most to lose by this, given this threat that is economic, cultural, and threatens all of us here in Maryland, but particularly the residents of those counties. So once again, I'd like to advocate for map number 3. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Oshinsky.
Thank you so much. My name is Suzanne Oshinsky, and thank you for this open and transparent redistricting process. For the last 6 years or so, I've lived in Hartford County in Bel Air, Maryland, in District 1. I have felt without representation. District 1 was intentionally packed with Republicans to ensure that the other districts are Democratic, and as a result, there's absolutely no competition for an extremist who perpetuates the lie that the presidential election was stolen and tried to bring a gun into Congress. Without real choice, without real choice and real competition, there's no accountability for elected officials' actions. Our government is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, but that is only true if we are able to have a fair election. Gerrymandering does a disservice to all the inhabitants because the result is that we have no say in the votes taken in Congress or any way of holding our elected officials accountable, which is key to preserving a democracy. The other issue I have with the current map is that there's no way that one person can really represent all the issues from the Eastern Shore up to the border with Pennsylvania. No one person can know all the disparate needs and issues of such a varied economic and geographic district. In my view, Hartford has more in common with its near neighbors in Baltimore and should not be part of the District 1 map at all. Therefore, I think map number 3, though not perfect, will alleviate many of the issues with the current District 1 map. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, Judy Wickstead.
Good evening, and thank you so much for this this hearing and for listening to the constituents about redistricting. It's a lovely change. I live on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and I'd like to make a statement as it relates to the District 1 map. Would also like to do a shout out, though, to whatever person is controlling this, as those of us who are unfamiliar with this new technology struggle to get put on online. This district, as it was drawn 10 years ago, packed MD1 in such a way that only the most radical Republican could win a primary. One wouldn't think that one district could mean so much in the large scheme of things, but Mr. Harris has consistently stood with the fringe elements of his party for 10 years, and he gladly shoulders responsibility for its current radicalization. You know, my mom brought me up to believe by watching what people do, not listening to what they say. And so this is just a brief list, and I know you've heard some of them, but a brief list of what those of us on the Eastern Shore of Maryland have had to put up with this representation over the last 8 years. He led a rally against masking in Delmarva. He tried to prescribe ivermectin for COVID. He voted present on a resolution condemning QAnon, voted twice to deny Congressional Medals of Honor to police officers who defended the Capitol. He called Maya Angelou a communist. He threatened physical violence against another member of Congress on the floor. He donates to the campaigns of such representatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene, set off a metal detector trying to enter the House floor with a concealed weapon. And, I keep thinking maybe he learned to love dictatorship at the feet of his friend Viktor Orban in Hungary. And he embarrasses the entire state. But what's worse is he leads in the radicalization that threatens our nation, and he has no boundaries. And I'll wrap up very quickly. I'm here tonight to tell you that he's currently supporting the efforts to attack our schools by attending a meeting of a small fringe group in Easton just last week, a group whose leader was quoted in the newspaper of saying, "These teachers, they hate you, they hate your children, they want to destroy you." Mr. Harris seems eager to bring the hateful lies spread all over the state of Virginia and bring it here to Maryland. You have it in your hands to temper this district by drawing lines as have been outlined by either Crab MD. Map 3 is somewhat acceptable. I don't think it goes far enough, but it's a good start. And what I just want to say is you are our voice in Annapolis, because except for one legislator, moderates on the Eastern Shore have no voice in Annapolis. We've watched our local representatives either stand dumbly quiet or become more radicalized under the influence of Harris and his ilk. We, the citizens of District 1, are literally begging you for relief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paula Casagrande. I need you to turn your microphone on, please. Microphone, can't hear you.
You hear me now? You good? Sorry, thank you. My name is Paula Casagrande, and thank you so much for the opportunity to testify and for creating this transparent process. I'm here to ask you for a competitive District 1 that will allow voters to render a verdict on Andy Harris. The current map allows him to win again and again, and then he just coasts right to re-election. He has done nothing for this district but embarrass our state, and he's a danger to our democracy. He voted against the certification of the presidential election and the peaceful transfer of power. Of all the proposed maps, I too believe map 3 is the most acceptable. It's not great, but it is okay. It's a good start. Please do more to prevent an insurrectionist from serving in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me see who else I have here. Is Donna Sella Wilson, is she? I see her name, but I don't see any kind of microphone or anything. So we'll come back there again. Mary Helen Gillen.
Hi, good evening, and thank you to the members of this commission for creating a transparent redistricting process. As a resident of the Eastern Shore and of Talbot County, I'm one of many Marylanders, unfortunately, ashamed by my congressional representation. You have already heard tonight a lot of reasons why Andy Harris is a danger to democracy and to those of us he is supposed to represent. But it bears repeating, we want a competitive district to allow voters to render a verdict on Andy Harris. For many of the reasons already shared tonight, Andy Harris has lost the right to serve Marylanders in Congress. Beyond the shame of Harris, drawing the already natural connections between the Eastern Shore and Arundel and Annapolis into the same district makes sense, as there have been so many overlapping cultural, economic, and environmental interests. Consider the Bay Bridge is the primary connection route for travelers to the Western Shore, not only for work, but also medical and other basic needs. The shared asset brings with it multiple sets of complex issues associated with traffic flow, safety, and environmental concerns, and it is best represented by someone willing to listen to the range of the region's constituents. The Chesapeake Bay is our most precious natural asset, and it's crucial for our voices to be represented and connected in order to protect the bay and its tributaries, especially as we face increasing challenges from sea level rise, warming temperatures, and human health impacts related to climate change in our region. In terms of the 4 congressional maps proposed, concept number 3 is the most acceptable at creating a competitive and equitable solution, ensuring every voice is heard and has a fair shot at being represented. Again, I want to thank you all tonight for creating this transparent process and for hearing my comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Sierra Stearns. I see. We need your microphone on.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I'm traveling in my car right now, but I want to also thank the commission for having this hearing tonight and for the transparency that it allows the different constituents. I am a resident of Queen Anne's County, and I also have an office in Annapolis. So I am interested in particular in supporting the map. As others have said, map number 3 is the most acceptable of those presented. I'm one of 9,000 residents on the Eastern Shore who daily commute into Anne Arundel. And many people from the Western Shore commute over to the Eastern Shore as well. So I think that the link between, whoops, it just went out. It just went off, Jay.
We can still hear you. We can still hear you.
You can still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying that I think that the ties between Annapolis and Anne Arundel County and the Eastern Shore counties makes perfect sense to use map number 3 as the most viable redistricting map for that reason, for most balanced, fair, and just voter representation. I think I will stop there. I wanted to be brief. I do support map number 3. I thank you again to the commission for this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have Paul Sundell.
Balanced, fair, and just voter representation. I think I will stop there. I wanted to be brief.
Mr. Sundell, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but there's something in the background too.
Thank you.
I don't know what that would be.
Well, if you have another device on, I'd suggest you mute it.
I don't have anything on.
Okay, I think we're good now. Go right ahead.
Okay, yes. I want to first thank the committee for the opportunity to make comments. Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. But there's something in the background too. I'm sure what that would be. Well, I may have more than one of these things open, but here I want to. I'll do the best I can here. The 2 major things I look at is are the maps compact, and the one that is my county treated fairly, and in terms of compactness, I think it is map 4 that is most compact. It would be nice if there was measures of compactness for the various districts to go and give some quantitative measures to maps of 3 and 4 give Anne Arundel County a majority membership in a district, something we did not have the last time, where we were a member in every district. And it was so bad we didn't have anybody even willing to run in Anne Arundel County. And on the Andy Harris thing, I think he is a despicable representative, but he's what you get. He's what you get when you have a heavily gerrymandered setup for the state and a poorly informed electorate. And I don't think politics should really have anything to go and say on how the maps are drawn. Compactness and obey geographical boundaries would go a long way to better maps and should be the overriding concerns. In my opinion, and I thank you for the opportunity for me to give them. And Maryland was the worst gerrymandered state in the country as measured and evaluated by Xavier, a Philadelphia cartography firm. So we don't want anything resembling the politics that played in the drawing of the maps again.
Thank you, Mr. Sundell. I've just been told that we do have another 7 people in the waiting room. So we're going to let them speak to us. And I don't have a list of their names, but I can see they're popping up. So the first person I have is John LaFeria. We'll need you to turn your mic on. Can't hear you. Mr. LaFeria. Faria or Furla. I'm sorry, Furla. My eyes are not that good. No. All right. Well, we'll just try the next person. Michelle Collins.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Ariel and Commissioners. My name is Dawn Collins, and I'm representing the League of Voters of Maryland. This commission, as it has traveled around the state for the last 2 months, has already heard from 11 county League of Women Voters plus individual members. We appreciate that the LRAC hearings and November 9th release of 4 conceptual maps aligned with the League support for state redistricting process and standards with maximum opportunity for public scrutiny. I'm representing the League of Voters of Maryland. We would like to commend the commission for offering Spanish and ASL translations for moving this hearing to an evening time slot so that people who work full-time will be able to participate. We are asking that the LRAC continue to set a procedural for transparent government by permitting the public to observe your process of deciding on the final congressional map. The commission has mentioned compactness as a goal, and we recommend that you prioritize compactness and the other Maryland constituent standards that govern the drawing of legislature districts. Releasing your final congressional map by the end of this week will allow a minimum of 2 weeks for public scrutiny before the special session begins on December 6th. An announcement about the relevant dates for the special sessions to vote on the maps is also appropriate. Turning to the legislative maps, we are asking for a well-publicized
You can finish, please.
Thank you. Timetable for their release by the end of 2021. For example, do you intend to also release conceptual maps followed by a single choice? And when will these releases happen? Will the Senate map be released first? Of course, we hope that the process of deciding on a legislative map will also be transparent. Looking forward to a special and to the 2022 sessions. The electronic process for signing up for testimony can easily allow for more time and more user-friendly. The website is unclear, difficult to link to, and hard to navigate. Dividing lines selected to favor politicians invariably end up splitting communities of interest, fueling the cynicism toward those in charge, and feeding the apathy that deters voters from participating in the electoral process. The League respectfully requests that the congressional and legislative maps this commission submits are fair and effective in representing the entire population of Maryland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. John LaFurla.
Okay, finally I can unmute. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. And I have submitted printed statements, so I'm not going to go over all that. And in respect for all of your time, since the hour is late, I'm going to keep my comments very short. I'm currently moving into retirement in Delaware, but for the past couple of decades, was a citizen of Kent County, Maryland, and the Eastern Shore. And more to the point here, I was actually a Democratic candidate for United States Congress from Maryland District 1 in 2012 and 2014. So I know from which I speak, and I'm listening to all of these constituents and their statements, and it really gives me heart that they still believe in the democratic process after all the gerrymandering and all the problems we've been through. So I can just say that, as you probably already know, when I was running, I actually added up all the square miles of all the counties and districts in the state of Maryland and realized that District 1 is 1/3 of the entire state as far as land mass. 1/3 of the state is District 1. And of course, it's only 1/8 of the population. So that means it's the most spread out, the least population dense of any district. And that made it really a challenge. I was living in Chestertown and having to try and meet people and reach out to constituents all the way from Somerset on one hand to going up past Taneytown in Carroll County on the other hand, practically to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I mean, I had no idea where I was. So anyway, let me just say that other people who've spoken so far have been very passionate and very eloquent, and I'm not going to review anything that they've said. It's been wonderful to hear. But really, the issue is not about Andy Harris. As bad as he is, or as much as I disagree with his policies and what he's done, that's not really the issue. The issue is, can we have government that's representative and that people can believe in, so that we can restore some of our basic feelings of, what's the word, support and democracy. Democracy itself in the United States is under attack. And that's what we need to get back to, and having more compact districts that make sense, or what is what people really look for. So I think that what you're doing is a step, really a great step toward improved government. I want to congratulate you for your efforts. I'm not going to tell you what map to look at because you all know which map is the most compact and makes the most sense. And of course, it's not one that includes the border with Pennsylvania all the way to Gettysburg. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your good work, and have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Sandy Bell?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak and for having this meeting. And I agree with Mr. LaFurler that it's about democracy, but because of the fact it's about democracy, it is also about Andy Harris. Andy Harris is a danger to democracy and to the citizens of Maryland. He not only refused to verify the results of a fair election, but he's refused to accept science behind a virus that's killed over 762,000 Americans. The current First District Maryland needs to be realigned to offer ample opportunity for other candidates to have a real chance at representing the people in that area. They deserve better. They deserve someone who offers them truth and who values their lives. So I hope you will choose a map like your proposed map 3 that gives people the chance to choose a worthy representative of the citizens in the First District. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter Berenger. We'll need you to unmute your mic. Should be at the bottom of your screen as an icon. Microphone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. My name is Peter Berenger. I have lived almost 20 years in Queen Anne's County, and I appreciate this opportunity to be able to make this presentation to the commission. I have submitted written comments, so I won't go over those other than to support what a number of the speakers tonight have said about our current congressman in the First District, and he certainly has done his best over the last 8 years to undermine our Constitution again and again and again. And we can't give him the opportunity to undermine our Constitution yet again in 2022 and 2024. I've lived and worked my entire career toward making the United States a more inclusive society. Andy Harris has repeatedly stoked racial tensions, embraced conspiracy theories, and espoused a hateful, dangerous ideology which negatively impacts communities of color. African American and Hispanic communities here on the Eastern Shore and elsewhere are at a significant disadvantage to change their representation in the current First District. The existing congressional map has empowered an extremist to represent us with little fear of retribution for any of his actions or comments. The commission should make a new First District that is competitive and balanced, allowing African American, Hispanic, and all residents to use our voices and our votes to both render a verdict on Andy Harris's tenure in Congress and to have an opportunity to replace him with a congressperson who will represent all his or her constituents, regardless of the color of their skin, who they love, or how they wish to support the democratic process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mia Mason.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm a prior 2020 congressional candidate who also ran against Andy Harris. When I ran, one of the biggest jokes I had for everybody that I used as an icebreaker was about the size of Maryland District 1. As John said, it was very large. But in my instance, since he is moving over to Delaware, I stated that the district was the size of 2 Delawares. I honestly hope that with this commission and your support, that this can change throughout the entire state of Maryland to make every district very competitive for future candidates who are seeking to run for office. I have to say that during my campaign, I was running against a war horse and a big treasure chest against Andy Harris. And I proved that it didn't really need to matter to have $1 million in your bank account. I used my own little bit of funds that I had that I raised, under $70,000, pretty much a Hampton salary for any senator or delegate here in Maryland. Now, I have to say, Representative Andy Harris is a public menace. He understands exactly what's going on, but he was also placed in charge of Operation Warp Speed to make sure that the vaccine got into our arms. He did a little bit, but when you take a look at what I was able to do in Annapolis by making sure that 60,000 Marylanders got vaccinated, that is more important. And here's the bottom line. Here's the facts. Out of the 102,000 who got COVID in his district, you were 30% more likely to get COVID in Maryland District 1 because you're unmasked and unvaccinated. And out of the 2,276 who died in his district, you were 40% more likely to die. This is why we need a more competitive district in Maryland, regardless of what the number is. Please, let's make that change happen for all of us, for our safety, for our lives, and for our loved ones. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. There's a person here whose name is iPad. You'll need to turn your mic on, please. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me? So this person named iPad is really Deborah Murray from Still Pond, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore, a very small community. And one that I'd like to note carries a sign that states the first woman to vote in the state of Maryland. And the other aspect and rumor of that first woman to vote in the state of Maryland is that she was an African American. So I really proudly live in Still Pond, and I'd like to see Still Pond and other like regions fairly represented in District 1. I'm going off script. I've submitted a script, but really feel that after listening to everybody else's testimony, much of what I feel has already been stated. One thing I would like to restate is that Andy Harris is a menace, and anyone of that philosophy is a menace to democracy. And because of the way our district has been drawn since 2011, my voice, and I feel the voice of many others who are like-minded, has not been represented, nor can we do anything to silence or remove this menace to democracy. So looking through the maps and reading the concepts, map 3 is the thing that most closely aligns with some opportunity for a more fair representation of the diverse population on the Eastern Shore. And the other piece of that is the bridge does unite us more with Arundel than certainly the existing map. So I hope that you'll give it strong consideration. And again, I want to thank you for letting me have this opportunity. iPad, Deb Murray, Still Pond.
Thank you very much. I have two people on the bottom of my screen. One is Richard Barker, who has been trying to connect to audio for the last 5 minutes. And then there's Doncella Wilson, who I don't know, she's still there, but I don't know what the story is. All I can say to either one of them at this point is please go to testimony_LRAC at mlis.state.md.us to submit written testimony so that we can see what you think. We wish to be able, we could hear you right now, but evidently technology is not going to let that happen. I will try to see if Mr. Barker can hear us, but it looks like he's not able to connect to audio, and the same for Ms. Wilson. So the question I have for the committee is, do we want to give them a few minutes? Is there the technology, the techies behind the screens here, if there's anything they can do? I've been chatting to see if there is. Evidently there is not. I think at this point, we're just going to have to say thank you all for your testimony tonight. And again, submit it in writing to that address I indicated if you're listening and care to contribute. We would certainly listen to it, read it, take it into consideration. So thank you all. And I guess this is it. We're adjourned, I guess. Good night.
Thank you and good night.